What's up, losers? Today I'm back with some more r/fatlogic hijinks. Taking a look at a couple of posts and sharing my opinions on them. This is episode 87 in the fatlogic series. And I'm ready for some more of that classic fat acceptance wackiness. So without further ado, let's get into it.
I know how hard and distressing binging can be. I've been there. I know that there can be a lot of shame around binging. I've been there. And the binging is what is trying to save your life. The binging is keeping you going. The binging is making sure your body has nourishment. The binging is wise coping. The binging is resilient AF. The binging is keeping you alive. The binging is your body saying no to starvation. I know it's hard, but celebrate the binge. Send gratitude to the binge.
Man, don't you guys love it when fat activists fight back against the glorification of eating disorders by checks notes, glorifying eating disorders? I mean, it's genius. Who else could have thought of such a brilliant, progressive scheme? Truly a masterstroke. In all seriousness though, this post infuriates me to no end. After all of the fear-mongering about eating disorders I've seen from fat activists, in response to totally normal and healthy diet practices, of which there has been a lot, they have the audacity to come out like this, unabashedly extol the virtues of binging, and actively encourage people to embrace such behaviors within their own lives. Unfricking believable. Binge eating disorder is an eating disorder. Plain and simple. I shouldn't have to keep saying this, but it seems that some people will only recognize an ED or its sufferers as legitimate when they can use it as an excuse for their refusal to go on a diet. So I'll say it again. Binge eating disorder is an eating disorder. It's not cute or fun or wholesome. It's deeply emotionally painful for the people who struggle with it. And it brings dire physical consequences if not adequately addressed in the long term. Binges are not something to be celebrated or appreciated in any way. They are not saving you from starvation. Far from it. They are an extremely self-destructive coping mechanism. Nothing more. And posts like this deserve only the strongest condemnation for suggesting otherwise. Genuinely awful. Sighs. Moving on.
It's weird when I step outside of my firmly anti-diet social circle and hear a person talking about doing some pretty severe calorie restriction. As if that's totally normal. Like, how the frick do I even begin explaining to someone I barely know that eating only 1,300 calories a day is extremely bad for you? And that basically everything they think they know about nutrition is false. The average thin person is so afraid of becoming fat that they'll do things which are extremely harmful for them on every level, with zero upsides. Calorie restriction is even likely to cause future weight gain, and this is completely normalized in mainstream culture. Anti-fat discrimination is so deeply ingrained in the systems of our society, and it's so fricked. Diet people never even seem to remember that a calorie is only a measurement of energy. Specifically, the energy it takes to raise the temperature of water by 1 degree. There's no single solid definition of what a calorie is in your food, and most labeling of such is just spitballing. But people talk about it like it's a literal one-to-one measure of how fat a food will make you.
Okay, so I'll begin my response to this post with the question of, how the frick do you begin explaining these things to someone you barely know? And my answer is, very simply, you don't, because that would be super obnoxious. Because they almost certainly have no interest in hearing your condescending, so-called explanation, and most importantly, because pretty much everything you've said here is a load of baloney. A few of the more outlandish claims I was able to identify included that 1,300 calories is extremely bad for you, which is certainly not the case for a great many relatively small people. That calorie restriction has zero upsides, which is obviously not true for people who are trying to lose weight. That calorie restriction is likely to cause future weight gain, which is misleading, because it's not the calorie restriction itself that causes this, but the overeating people do after a period of restriction, and that most labeling of calories in food is, quote, just spitballing, when it's actually based on a standardized system of measurement which, while imperfect, is far from being arbitrary or random. But the worst part about the post isn't even all this misinformation. Damaging though it may be, it's that the post isn't even internally consistent. It very obviously contradicts itself, in its flailing attempt to throw something at the wall and have it stick. And I genuinely don't see how anyone could find it remotely persuasive, even if they were to accept all the counterfactual nonsense that it uses to support its argument. Like, how can you jump from saying how harmful a certain calorie count is one moment, to saying that calorie counts are basically made-up numbers the next? It doesn't make any sense. You have to pick a lane and stick to it. Regurgitating a bunch of fat acceptance talking points that don't even cohere doesn't make you look super well informed, or anything like that. It just makes it look like you haven't thought anything you're saying through. And it's extremely frustrating to read. So, yeah, 1 out of 10 I'm not impressed.
Diet culture tells us that our bodies are evil, and we can't trust them. But hunger signals exist for a reason. Hashtag nourish your body. Hashtag fat phobia is no joke. Hashtag affirmations for former fat kids.
Okay, so, while some diet practitioners might adopt an unhelpfully negative or adversarial view of their bodies, I don't think it's fair to say that dieting, in general, is about thinking that bodies are evil. On the contrary, it's about understanding just how important our bodies are, how vulnerable they can be, and what we can do to protect them from the unnecessary damage that they might incur by carrying around a lot of excess fat. And while hunger cues do indeed exist for a reason, this does not mean that eating whatever you want, whenever you feel hungry, is at all healthy or sustainable. The food environment in which we presently reside is replete with hyperpalatable, calorically dense snacks, treats, and junk foods, which did not even exist during the period over which our hunger cues developed. Our body's instincts have clearly been unable to adapt to this new environment, as evidenced by the rapidly accelerating obesity crisis. And this means that we have to exercise some discretion in planning out our diet, beyond simply following our cravings. So ultimately, no, we can't trust our bodies to tell us what or how much to eat. Because bodies are not people. We are. Our bodies are not capable of thinking for themselves, weighing up long and short-term consequences, and making the best decisions for us in light of the available evidence. But we are. Posts like this try to make something as simple as free thought seem like a betrayal of our physical selves. A betrayal of nature, even. But, I don't know, exercising control over my own body doesn't seem like any great sin to me. It's just life. And let's be real, the actual reason why fat activists want to frame things in terms of trusting one's body, rather than in terms of personal choices, good or bad, is because it provides them with a ready-made excuse for their being fat. i.e., that it is the natural state for their body to be in, as communicated through natural hunger cues, and allows them to avoid taking responsibility for their own actions and the consequences of these actions. Because depriving yourself of agency entirely is more appealing than acknowledging any personal shortcoming. I guess. Sighs. How sad. Well, that's all I've got for you today. I hope you enjoyed checking these posts out with me, and hearing my responses to them. What do you think? Should we celebrate and send gratitude to binges? Does calorie restriction really have zero upsides? Does diet culture tell us that our bodies are evil? Let me know in the comments. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, or I'll make you join a group chat with the second poster. and all their fat activist friends. And you'll be unable to comment or mute or leave the chat. So you'll be forced to endure a never-ending deluge of fat acceptance nonsense. And there'll be nothing you can do about it. Just kidding, haha. Anyway, catch you later.